Breaking news. I'm your host Mazia, and today we will be looking at the latest trend in the education world. Together with me later today are educational theorist Shinyi and esteemed teacher Shamila to walk us through this concept. According to Jenkins and O'Connor, cooperative learning is amongst the best, yes, best strategies for teaching students with and without disabilities. Why do they say so? Let's take a look at the history to find out. According to Johnson and Houellebecq, the concept can be dated back hundreds of years and longer. Looking at some of the most prominent philosophers in cooperative learning, we have Joseph Lancaster, who brought cooperative learning to America in the late 1700s, Colonel Francis Parker, who was one of the most successful advocates of cooperative learning. His instructional methods of promoting cooperation among students dominated the American education through the turn of the century. Following him, John Dewey, a name that is well known in the educational world, promoted the use of cooperative learning groups as his famous project method in instruction. However, in the late 1930s, cooperative learning hit a wall due to the new emphasis on interpersonal competition with the public schools. Therefore, to bring back the use of cooperative learning in the classrooms, Morton Dosch proposed a theory of cooperative and competitive situations. This has served as the primary foundation in which the research and discussions of cooperative learning has been based on ever since. Now that we understand it has been around for ages, but what exactly is cooperative learning? Cooperative language learning is a part of a more general instructional approach, which is also known as collaborative learning. Now, there are many definitions to cooperative learning. However, these are not that much different from each other. Today, we will be only looking at one definition offered by Richards and Rogers. According to them, cooperative learning is a group learning activity that is organized in a way that learning is dependent on socially structured exchange of information between the learners in the groups. He also adds that in this concept, each individual is held accountable for their own learning and is motivated to increase their learning of others. So what makes it so popular? Research highlights several elements to why cooperative language learning is beneficial for the classrooms. Firstly, it is student-centered, where teachers take on the role of a facilitator and allow the students to take control of their own learning. Next, it increases motivation. Cooperative language learning promotes motivation through various ways, such as peer support, having ownership of their learning, and to quote Punit's 1999, its fun and engaging nature. It also aids in increasing students' self-confidence, as a supportive and encouraging environment provided by this method allows the learners to become more comfortable, thus leading to greater participation. To put it simply, the more they speak, the more confident they get, which in turn reduces their level of anxiety. In addition to that, greater participation creates more opportunities for the students to talk, listen, and discuss their opinions. It also provides opportunities for them to observe the language usage of their peers, which helps them in improving their language skills. Plus, rather than sitting in class and simply listening to the teacher, as done in a traditional classroom, all the students will be communicating and working together to try and achieve this lesson objective. And lastly, it develops positive relationships where the students get to express and explain their thoughts and actions, and it makes the level of involvement within the classroom more intense and personal. That's all from me. So now let's hear it from the experts themselves, starting with Shinyi.
Thank you, Mazia, for providing us an informative segment of the general background of cooperative learning. I'm Shinyi, and I'll be supporting this approach with the relevant language and learning theories, and later providing insights on its design. In terms of the theory of language, cooperative language learning is founded on some basic premises about the interactive or cooperative nature of language learning. Premise 1 states that we are all programmed to talk, so communication is the primary purpose of language. The second premise states that most talk and speech is organized as conversation, while premise 3 states that conversation operates on a set of cooperative rules, where partners take turns to share information. In premise 4, those rules are used in one's native language through casual, everyday conversational interaction. Finally, premise 5 states that we apply the same rules of conversational interaction in our native language into the second language in cooperatively structured interactional activities. Hence, students of different linguistic backgrounds can learn step-by-step functional interaction techniques for the group spirit or trust to be built. In fact, cooperative learning advocates draw heavily on the theoretical work of developmental psychologists John Piaget and Lev Vygotsky, both of whom stress the central role of social interaction in the theory of learning. As we have indicated, a central premise of the CLL, or cooperative language learning, is that learners develop communicative competence in a language by conversing in socially or pedagogically structured situations. Hence, the main objective of CLL is an approach designed to foster cooperation, develop critical thinking skills, and to develop communicative competence through socially structured interactional activities. But did you know that there are 3 types of cooperative groups? They are formal cooperative learning groups, informal cooperative learning groups, and finally, cooperative-based groups. Of course, all 3 of them are established for a specific task and involve students working together to achieve shared learning goals. The only difference is the time period of their implementations. For formal cooperative learning groups, these last from 1 class period to several weeks. In informal cooperative learning groups, these ad hoc groups last from a few minutes to a class period and are used to focus student attention or to facilitate learning during direct teaching. And finally, cooperative-based groups are long-term, lasting for at least a year and consisting of heterogeneous learning groups so that members give each other the support, help, and encouragement they need to succeed academically. But here comes the question. How do we ensure success in group work? According to the social interdependence theory, here are 5 components of these success factors. The first one is positive interdependence, which occurs when group members feel that what helps one member helps all, and what hurts one member hurts all. To build a spirit of mutual support within the group, do ensure that the structure of cooperative learning tasks should comprise of shared goals, outcomes, and rewards for the groups to work toward. Group formation is another important factor in creating positive interdependence. Factors we need to consider when setting up groups include: number 1, deciding on the size of groups. An ideal group size is from 2 to 4 members, and it will depend on the age of the learners and time limits for the lesson. Number 2, assigning students to groups. Groups can be teacher-centered, random, or student-selected, although teacher-selected is recommended as the usual mode so as to create groups that are heterogeneous. Next, individual accountability involves both group and individual performances. To do so, assign student roles in the groups so that each group member has a specific role to play and contribute, such as the manager, the recorder, the questioner, and the reflector. Social skills is also important for successful group work as it determines the way students interact with each other as teammates. Usually, some explicit instruction in social skills is needed to ensure successful interaction. Finally, structuring and structures refer to the group cohesion or the different ways students interact with each other. One way to practice positive group work dynamics is for groups to celebrate success together when a mission is accomplished successfully. Here, teachers can teach students to recognize, appreciate, and celebrate each other's work to promote positive group work dynamics within their groups. That's all from me. Now let's hear it from the teacher, Sharmila, on how cooperative learning is implemented in classrooms.
Thank you, Shinyi, for that detailed explanation about the theories of learning and language involved in cooperative learning. Hello, future teachers. I'm Sharmila, and I'm here to walk you through the roles of teachers and students in order to achieve the best possible outcomes of a cooperating learning classroom. For starters, it is important for teachers to constantly facilitate, assist, and evaluate their students throughout the lesson. Even though the lessons are student-centered, teachers are required to provide constant input and feedbacks as needed. Next, teachers should prepare lessons with maximized engagement with the students during the activities. We don't want our students to have a boring lesson, do we? Then, setting individual roles to each student should be a priority during delegation of tasks according to their learning objectives. This would help the students in taking their responsibilities seriously. Lastly, they are encouraged to accommodate their student needs with their own or peers' help. Rather than stepping in to help immediately, it's important to scaffold the students towards the answers or prompt his or her peers to help assisting them first. For instance, we should allow students to voice their opinion or ideas before providing our feedback on the topic. On the other hand, students should take accountability for their predetermined roles during task delegation. Task delegation may be done among students themselves to promote leadership skills, and as each of them are contributing, their sense of ownership toward the task goal increases. This adds on to their intrinsic motivation in achieving the collective goal. They should be keen in upholding positive interdependence, whereby the teacher stops explaining the same content for all the students and can focus on the ones that have more difficulty, who can also be aided by the students who have already understood the general theory. It is important for the students to have the same vision and mission in terms of work, achievement, and goals within their classroom. This includes both academic and hidden curriculum goals. Teachers can remind them whenever possible of the objectives to make sure students are on the right track. Finally, they must be able to understand the need of sharing strength and acknowledging weaknesses for healthy purposes amongst their peers. The classroom should be a judgment-free space where only safe learning happens, and mistakes only mean learning is taking place. Now, being an enthusiastic teacher, I often use a range of activities to help facilitate the lesson in a more interactive manner. And my students too always look forward to the different types of activities they can participate in. Group activities are often the goal of the major portion of cooperative setting classroom. The first one is Think, Pair, Share. This activity ensures maximum discussion within a group. Each student is held accountable, instructs students to individually think about a question or a prompt for a few minutes. Then, with a partner, discuss the prompt and each student's opinions on the subject for a few more minutes. Finally, let each pair share with the larger group their conclusions on the topic. Another one of the many would be the fishbowl debate. This requires students to be assigned specific roles. For example, the person on the left takes one position on the topic for debate, the person on the right takes the opposite position, and the person in the middle takes notes and decides which side is the most convincing and provides an argument for his or her choice. The discussion then is debriefed by calling on a few groups to summarize their discussions. I hope my sharing of experience about cooperative learning helps those teachers who are yet to try this student-centered and fun style of teaching. It is high time we start working smart and towards the best needs of individual student goals. Good luck and have fun trying this approach out.
Thank you, Sharmila, for sharing an interesting segment on how cooperative learning can be implemented. Hence, to conclude, cooperative learning is more than just group work. It takes a lot of planning and foresight for a group activity to be considered cooperative learning. Research has shown that this method has major positive effects on the students' learning process. However, changes may be needed for some classes and instructors to make it so that it fits well within their classroom. Teachers who want to improve engagement should ensure that their classroom promote multiple pathways for learning and plenty of opportunities for group discussions and teamwork. It can be thought of as a gift of empowerment for the learners. We would like to end this presentation with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I'll forget, show me and I'll remember, but involve me and I'll learn. That's the breaking news of today. See you soon.